Hi, I'm Jackie Sabrin, and welcome to the Engaged at Any Age Summit. And today I'm delighted to introduce to you Michelle Marchant Johnson. Michelle, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. So excited about being here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, I'm really excited about this interview because I know you're going to provide a lot of value to the summit and great information for these women that are looking for love. But before we get started, I just want to tell the audience a little bit about you. And you're a professional relationship coach, author, and speaker. And in your business, lovelifecoaching.com, you partner with successful, smart, sensational single women around the world who want to find authentic love and affectionate romance. And you're also known by many as your guide to the right guy. I love that, your guide to the right guy. Well, you're the girl we want to talk to for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so before we jump into it, maybe you'd like to share with the audience a little bit about your story and your personal journey to love and just how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, well, Jackie, I just want to tell you I love the theme of the summit, Engaged at Any Age, because you and I have spoken, and I was an ecstatic first-time bride at age 43. So I had my own long, winding journey to love, and I've been married to my wonderful husband now for about 8.5 years. So like many of us, I found my way to this work in part as a result of my own journey, right?
Yeah, good.
And I feel deeply passionate about the opportunity and privilege that I have in the world of helping other single women who are on their path to love. And, you know, when I was single for those 43 years, it was an interesting journey. I oftentimes would joke around and say that I was going to write a book called Dating for Decades, just chronicling all of the experiences and episodes of my dating life. And at certain points, I thought it might turn into like the Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, a 28-volume set or something. And so as I went along, you know, things were going great in terms of my career, and I was really rocking it out there. And like many of the women that I work with, and I'm sure you work with, I was very successful in that area. But for whatever reason, I felt like I just kind of kept hitting a brick wall when it came to my love life, right?
Yeah.
And so I began, especially once I hit 40, and I really thought, okay, you know, it's not like I haven't given my plan a fair shot here to work, right? Something is not really working here. And I began to recognize that maybe I had a few blind spots or a few ways that I might be holding myself back, but I didn't really fully understand or know what they were. I couldn't see them. They weren't clear to me at that time. So I went on an intense journey of self-discovery and worked with coaches and counselors and did, you know, read everything I could get my hands on about love, relationships, men, and I began to start to have breakthroughs. So I began to see that there were a few little blind spots, right? And there are a number of them, maybe too many for us to enumerate on this call. But the amazing thing is, once I began to see them, then I began to be able to move through them. And one of the things that came up was that while I was very feminine in my appearance and everything like that, as a result of my 25 years in corporate America, I also had this kind of take charge, get it done, a little bit masculine approach to my love life in some instances, right?
Yeah.
And that's some of what we're going to talk about today. It's one of my favorite topics because I think this comes up so frequently, particularly for women who are out there as a result of needing to or wanting to, really rocking it out in their professional lives. And it's what translates so well in our career and professional lives doesn't always work quite as well in our love lives, right?
Yes, I'm so glad you're going to touch on this because you're right, it does. It comes up in almost all women are dealing with this issue right now. So I'm glad you're going to share your wisdom in this area. It's really important.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to ask you, I've heard you say that we attract love from the inside out. What is it? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. I love that question. You know, as I was working through my own journey and as I work with many of my clients, you know, it's very easy, it was for me and for women that I work with, it's very easy for us to see the challenges being something outside of ourselves, you know. So things that come up might be things like, well, there's not any good men here, or all the good ones are married or taken or gay, or, you know, I've dated everyone that there is to date here, I just can't meet anyone. You know, we come up with these external reasons, or my career is too demanding, whatever. So we see these things as external obstacles. And what I've found in my own journey, and then now with working with so many women, is what starts out as kind of the reason or reasons we can't move forward in this area of life don't ultimately really end up being the reasons. It typically is more of the inner stuff and the inner work. And so that's the interesting piece about this. One of my favorite quotes is by the poet Rumi, and I may be paraphrasing this a little bit, but his quote says something like, your job is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the obstacles you've built against it inside yourself, right?
Yes.
And so that's a lot about what I mean when I talk about we attract love from the inside out. And we're also going to be talking about something that I like to call feminine grace. And I really believe that that is like the most attractive, natural, authentic, magnetic place that a woman can be in, that state that she can be in, that helps magnetize love into her life. And so it's not so much about like us doing the, you know, all of the, am I getting my profile right? Am I flirting right? Am I doing this or that right? It's about really who we're being. So we're going to talk about that today.
I love that you just said it's about who we're being. So tell us a little bit more about that. It's about who we're being, not necessarily what we do, or just explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think that it comes back to masculine energy and feminine energy. And most women, when it comes right down to it, now there may be a few exceptions, but most women really do want to be in a relationship with a man where the man is in his masculine energy and a woman can be more in her feminine energy or feminine grace. And that means that she is able to relax and allow things to transpire naturally without her feeling the need to control, or without her feeling the need to overgive or try to move things along or take the lead or any of those kinds of things, right? Yeah. And so when a woman is in this natural feminine grace, she's really able to be authentic. She's able to be relaxed. She's able to express that feminine lightness and fun and joy that's so incredibly attractive to men. And she's not so focused on you know, what she has to do or what she has to give. She's able to be in what I like to call a state of graciously receiving. So she's able to receive the gifts that a man that comes into her life might be able to give her. And I'm not talking necessarily about physical gifts, but his gifts of his time, his attention, his love, his affection, his caring for her. So if it's okay, I'd like to just insert just a quick tiny little story right here. Would that be okay?
Oh, absolutely. I love hearing about this. I love the feminine grace. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, so one of my very first clients, this was really an interesting experience. She's a lovely, lovely woman physically and very accomplished in her career. She actually had a lot of male attention and a lot of dates and never had any trouble initially attracting men. But once she got into the dating relationship, for whatever reason, you know, that she couldn't understand, you know, they would turn into more friends, or she would not sense that they were going in a romantic direction with her, and she found this incredibly frustrating. So as we explored a little deeper, one of the things that we discovered was that it was a pattern for her to kind of take the lead. If a man wasn't following up after a date fast enough, or if he didn't have a good plan for the date, she would make the plan and suggest something. And she was really big on, you know, wanting to pay her fair share on the early dates and all of these kinds of things. And so she was setting up a dynamic without knowing it, where in some ways she was not allowing a man to step into his masculine energy, which, here's a secret, ladies, that can be a real key to a man falling in love with you. Because just like we like to feel loved, cherished, and adored, a man wants to feel needed, meaning that he can contribute something to the woman in his life, and appreciated and admired. And when we allow a man to step into that space, and we inspire him by being in our feminine grace for him to step into that space, then he's able to feel that masculine energy, and that in part is what creates that energy for a man to be able to feel more romantically inclined toward a woman. So we experimented with this. She met a guy she really liked, and it was incredibly difficult for her because she had this tendency to want to overgive or give too much too fast too soon, or kind of take the lead or take charge. And, you know, I coached her through this process, and I taught her this principle of just graciously receiving and being receptive to what he had to offer, and allowing him that space and time, even if he didn't do it quite as quickly or in quite as graceful a way as she might have been able to do it, to step up and to be in that masculine energy and masculine space. And ultimately they ended up getting married and are happily married now for a couple of years, and she attributes this one thing to her success in her love life. So it's a really interesting and powerful concept that we're talking about here.
I think you were talking about me the whole time.
Believe me, sister, you're not alone.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that story, because this is a common theme through with women, and so we can explain how we got here, but then how do we step into that grace you're referring to. And I'm so happy that she had such a wonderful experience, and now she's happy, because this is everything you're sharing. So now, how does a woman know when she's in the grace? So I know that you said, so let them lead. And there's things you can do by not planning the dates, not making those big suggestions like trying to control where you're going to dinner, when you text back. But how do you know when you're in that state of grace?
Yeah, I think that it's a state where you are free from struggle. I think it's a state where you are really clear about your own value, your own intrinsic value as a woman. And it goes way beyond what you look like or what you're doing for a career or what your accomplishments are. And when I say that, I don't want you to think I'm diminishing or in any way all of your amazing accomplishments and all that you are. But I guess I can maybe best illustrate this again by just giving a little example. So, Jackie, I've shared with you that I'm a breast cancer survivor. In 2012, about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a very serious case of breast cancer. Now, I had always been, a lot of my identity had always been in my appearance. You know, I had this beautiful long hair. My body was in a little better shape than it is now. And I was also attached to my accomplishments in my career, my 25-year corporate America career, and in my coaching business, I was starting to rock it out. And then all of a sudden, here I was in the most vulnerable, and I felt the least attractive I could have ever felt. I lost all my hair. I had to have a double mastectomy. I had to have radiation, chemo. I had to have hysterectomy. And so really, all of my feminine attributes were literally being stripped away from me. And it was incredibly difficult and incredibly challenging. And yet, in the midst of this, I got an incredible gift, because my amazing husband would kiss my bald head and he would tell me how beautiful I was, when I felt the least beautiful I'd ever felt. I mean, I didn't even have eyebrows and eyelashes at the end of chemo. So it had nothing to do with my appearance. It had nothing to do with what I was doing. It had nothing to do with my accomplishments. It had nothing to do with anything I could do. It was just, he loved me for the essence of me. And I got that really clearly, that when you're in that divine feminine grace, you get that you are lovable and you are amazing just because you are. It's not about anything you're doing. And that's that distinction that I'm making between being and doing. Like, I still am my divine feminine grace, minus a few body parts. I'm still me. That part of me is still intact, even though for a period of time I wondered whether it would be. And so that's an example. It's when you're in your feminine grace, you don't feel like you're in competition with other women. You don't feel like you're overly critical of men. You can see the best in them. You can appreciate their gifts and their attributes. You care for yourself, and you place a high value upon yourself. You don't give too much, too fast, too soon. That's a principle I like to call unholy giving. Because while giving is a very lovely feminine quality, if we give too much, whether it be, sex, or whether it be money, or whether it be just even too much of our time, attention, or focus to a man too early before he has shown that he's going to be there for you and that he's sincere about having a relationship with you, then it actually can deplete you because it's not fully appreciated by him. And the woman can end up feeling used or undervalued or abused and really, really disillusioned about what in the world happened here. I gave so much, I loved so much, I gave him my heart, I gave him everything, and then he deserts me, he's not here. And so that kind of giving is not something that ultimately benefits either the giver or the recipient. In this case, the woman and the man, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for sharing with us that really transparent, vulnerable share about your experience. And what a beautiful reflection that your husband, that you showed so much love for yourself that reflected in his behavior towards you. And that is such a perfect distinction. What a great example. Thank you. So what a lot of you showed a lot of grace, even though you're going through such a challenging time. And so how can a woman, what can we do to learn this grace? What are the steps that we can take?
Yeah. So sometimes, it's a matter of recognizing whether or not we're out of our feminine grace. And I shared with you a few of the things as to how you can tell if you're in your feminine grace. So the opposite of those things would be true if you're out of your feminine grace. So you might feel very competitive with other women. You might feel critical of men. You might feel like you have to give, or do to make a relationship work. And in order to, if you're finding that there's a pattern, so what we're looking for here are patterns, right? So you can look back over your past relationships or, marriage or whatever the case may be, and you can look for what are the patterns that are showing up. And if you find that you're not operating from that place of feminine grace in your relationships with men, then first step of getting back into that feminine grace is just an awareness, right? Because we can't really do anything unless there's even an awareness. So that's why we're talking about this to begin with. And then I just want to share, this is kind of an awareness that is an ongoing thing. It's kind of like you're almost asking yourself, who am I being? So one of the things that I like to experiment with is, just to consider who I'm showing up as in any interaction. Like when I was in corporate America, I would sometimes go to networking events and things like that, and I would just say, they weren't always the most fun things for me because they were, just business things that I had to go to, but I would say, my intention here is to add value to every interaction that I have. Now, when it comes to feminine grace, I think you can set an intention, which is to be, so let's say you're going to go on a date with a new guy. So you can set an intention where you just say, I'm going to relax, and I'm going to enjoy, and I'm going to invite and inspire him to step into his masculine energy, and I'm going to allow him to take the lead in making the plans without feeling like I need to step in and rescue him, etc. And that can be challenging because sometimes they don't do it quite as well as we might think, right? And that's one thing, just if you're going on a date. And then just on a day-to-day basis, there are just little things you can do as far as awarenesses that you can create. So one of the questions I love to ask, and this helps center me back into my feminine grace, is what is the most loving thing that I can do for myself right now? So in other words, you're getting some of your own needs met, you're getting in tune with some of your own needs and wants, and you're doing some self-nurturing in a deep and significant way. This goes way above beyond brushing your teeth and trying to get a little exercise and enough sleep. And then another question I like to ask is, what could I do today that would bring me pleasure or joy? Because that lightness and that joy and that playfulness that we as women can have when we're in our feminine grace is incredibly attractive to a man. A man wants to know that he can make you happy in a relationship, and if you're already radiating that joy and that playfulness, then he's already halfway there. His job's already halfway done, right? He's on his way to success. So that can be incredibly attractive, and also you're going to be a lot more fun to be with. You're going to be enjoying your own life. And then another question that I like to ask if I'm just feeling like I'm shifting into that got to get it done, masculine energy, do, is I can ask myself, what can I do just for fun? Just for the sheer fun of it. There's no outcome or there's no distinct goal or purpose other than I'm just going to have fun. Those are just a few little ideas, that are easy to implement into one's daily life or daily practices. And some of those can even work if you're coming straight from work and you can squeeze in a little time, which I suggest before like going out on a date or being with a man. You can shift into that feminine energy. Also, just moving your body, particularly dancing. That was one thing that I used to do as a single woman because I'd come home stressed out from this intense day at work, and then it was hard to shift into a playful, light, fun energy for a date. So I'd turn on some music and dance around the house. Nobody was there to see me, and I just moving my body and just kind of getting into that flow loosened me up from that intensity of a work day. So those are just a few little ideas. I wish we had more time to talk more about that, but those are a few tips.
And so I love it. Those are great, wonderful tips. And so by doing that, I imagine you're kind of creating an atmosphere for a man to come into, because if you're listening to music before you go out and you're recentering yourself, right, you're getting into your feminine wisdom, feminine grace, and then you're more relaxed and you're more open, your heart's open, and you're not in that go, go, go energy. Is that right?
Yeah, you're almost creating like a magnetic field. I mean, it's almost like we do have an aura and we do have an energy. And you've all experienced someone that will walk into a room and the whole room lights up, right? And then on the other hand, you've experienced having someone walk into the room and it's like sucking the air out of the room. It's almost like this dark cloud comes in with them. Well, we're all somewhere on that spectrum at any given moment, and we're not always at the absolute peak, but as we're in a higher energy, on a higher vibration, we almost become magnetizing, and then a man, the right man, is attracted almost like a magnet is, magnets attract. And so it really is almost like this, this feminine grace is an actual aura, you might call it, or an energy. It's an actual state of being that's incredibly irresistible and attractive. And that's really what we're going for here.
Yay! I love it. I love it. And I couldn't agree more. If you were to just follow Michelle's instructions and take notes about everything that she's instructed and practice it on a daily basis, you will marvel at how quickly you can start attracting men. So I love what you're recommending. I love that you said bring awareness. I made some little notes and in setting that intention, and so I know that the audience is going to want to watch this interview again. So at this point, I want to tell everybody that you can. You didn't take notes like I did. You're going to be able to upgrade and purchase the summit by going to engaged@neah.com/upgrade, and you can watch Michelle's interview again and again, and all the interviews for that matter, so that you can glean all the little nuances that she mentioned here. And Michelle, thank you so much for all of this that you shared. And I know that you put together a special little gift for our audience. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I love this free gift. This is a fun one. So my husband and I actually made a 2-part audio series that's been incredibly popular with my audience. And one of the keys to being with the right man or being engaged at any age is also knowing kind of the signs and signals of what the right man won't do or what the right man will do. And so my husband and I are both sharing our wisdom from our experience and many years of dating. It was a first marriage for both of us, both from the male and female perspective. So we have a two-part audio series called The Right Man Will and The Right Man Won't, and we talk in detail about some of the key early signs that you can look for a man that might be a perfect partner for you, and that might be really emotionally available and ready to step up into that masculine energy so that you can be so incredibly centered in your feminine energy and your feminine grace. And when that happens, it's just so delicious and it's so much fun. So I invite you to take a look at this. And the URL, the domain for this gift, is actually kind of a funny one. It's called Bye Bye Bad Boys. So that's BYE, bad, B-A-D, boys, B-O-Y-S. Because part of being with the right guy is not getting tangled up with the wrong guy. So we want to keep you safe so you can stay in that feminine grace.
Great. And so, by the way, you don't have to remember the link because I made it really simple right underneath the video. You can just click here and go right to your free gift. So I love the link, though. Did you say no more bad boys?
Bye-bye, bad boys.
Bye-bye, bad boys.
Bye-bye, bad boys.
How wonderful that you collaborated with your husband to make this video series. What a gift that is to women. I think women always want to hear from a weigh-in from the other sex, especially a husband. Like yours. So I'm going to be checking out that video as well. And so thank you so much for putting that together. Did you have any parting words of wisdom or anything you want to throw in before we have?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to share just a little thought, and that is this. No matter what has happened to you, no matter what your experiences have been in relationships, no matter what mistakes or perceived mistakes you feel like you might have made along the way, I want to assure you of your incredible intrinsic value and of your own divine feminine grace. And I want to encourage you to place an incredibly high value upon yourself. And here's one last key thing. I want you to have compassion and love and forgiveness for yourself for whatever mistakes or whatever missteps you feel like you've made thus far, because there is hope, even for those of us that have wandered out in the weeds for a while, and it can be harder for us sometimes to forgive ourselves than maybe even other people that have disappointed or hurt us. And so I just want to leave you with that thought, that you deserve your own love and compassion and forgiveness. And I invite you to bask in the deliciousness of your own feminine grace.
Oh, I don't want to say anything more because that was a beautiful ending and it really uplifted my spirits and made me feel good. And I know the audience is agreeing with me right now. So thank you again, Michelle, for bringing all of your wisdom here to the summit and spreading so much inspiration and hope. I'm very excited about sharing this with the audience.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I'm sending lots of love to all of you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.